All right. Hello there, folks, and thank you so much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Kings and Plebeians. Today I'm in Heidelberg, where I'll have the chance to catch up face-to-face with my good friend Dave, who was kind enough to open the doors of his cozy hotel room to have a chat with me. Now, we're recording this on Sunday, at just a few hours after the final of the Age of Empires 2 tournament, which means Dave's participation in Bull Wololo Legacy is now officially over. How hard did you party yesterday, my friend?
It was a good night. Went out to quiet dinner with Tristan and Riley, like I told you, just to kind of like decompress after meeting a bunch of fans. And then I went out for drinks with some friends, and we went to Shisha Bar. I met Tato, which was great. He showed up with like a posse of people, which is amazing. And yeah, I mean, he was just so happy. I was happy for him, and everyone's super thrilled with the production. Like it was just a crazy feeling yesterday with the live audience and everything. There's energy. You know?
I got to tell you, I don't remember when was the last time that I just sat in front of the computer and just watched Age of Empires the whole day. I don't remember when was the last time that happened to me. Everything was just so unimaginable, especially for the folks like us who've been around for so long, right? And since you just mentioned Tristan, well, here we officially congratulate Tristan on his engagement with his girlfriend. I was so happy for him, and seeing all the videos and pictures. Mm-hmm. I assume you knew about it before he proposed.
I mean, we went over plans, yeah. We also we scoped out the area, and then Riley assisted in kind of getting her up there with Tristan. So it was nice. I wasn't there for the actual moment, but I've seen the video of the moment, which is amazing. And I wanted to like be in a little corner to witness it, but I figured like the more people there, the more complicated it gets, you know, and just awkward and whatnot. But so he like proposed to her, right? And there's a minute, and they're hugging and everything. And I don't know if you saw on the subreddit,
the meme with the guy who
a tour group came in, and they obviously knew what was going on. And Tristan said everyone was like clapping, which made the moment even cooler. And then I just look at the subreddit, and there's a picture of a guy like. Like I'm part of this moment, so I think that guy showed up at the castle to meet people, and then he's like, whatever, I'll go on a tour, and he gets a tour to, you know, the Tristan's proposal.
And it was an Age of Empires fan, wasn't he? It was. Just, yeah, right. So he knew Tristan, obviously.
Exactly.
And did you realize what was happening, or was he like he just wants to go to Tristan and have an autograph or something?
He was just on the guided tour. So they went right past there, because normally you can't go up there, right? We collaborated with the production staff to get the keys to go up to that area.
Oh,
of the castle.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it was like the highest.
Secret.
It was the highest point in the castle.
So
it was pretty special.
Amazing. Yeah. So crazy. Yeah. Listen, what an amazing work you guys have done. As I told you, I just sat through the whole thing. All four of you, let me tell you, amazing casting. You guys were funny, passionate, knowledgeable. It's amazing to see how you as a caster as well have kind of grown up over the years. I mean, it's no secret. I love your casting. And one thing that always strikes me, especially when you and Tristan cast together, is that it does feel like you guys are just two great buddies, you know, having a great time talking about your favorite computer game. And incidentally, there just happen to be 70,000 people listening to your conversation. And I suspect it feels that way because that's probably exactly what it is. But this is actually your job. I mean, you're here working. And you're making a living. Does it feel like work to you, though? I mean, to cast an event like this.
I don't think so. When I'm here, when I'm being paid at an event, I'll always be on time. I'll always do the preparation and everything like that. So in that aspect, it kind of feels like work, right? Like breakfast at 9, get the shuttle, be there 2 hours early, get your makeup done, get in costume, you know, all these things, run it through with the production crew, make sure your sound levels are good. So that's work technically, but it doesn't feel as much like work because you're in that event flow, right? And I'm really enjoying myself. And I think it's the same thing with the other casters.
Right.
It only would feel like work if I wasn't enjoying the game. And I enjoy the game. So it's great. And if it ever gets to that point, well, I hope it never gets to that point. But if it ever gets to that point, I feel like I'm out. I feel like I'm just done. Yeah.
These things are still pretty rare for us, right? In the Age of Empires 2 community. A LAN event, let alone such a LAN event with such a huge production. So do you feel like it's still a special moment for you when you come to these things?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Right.
Like, how could it not be? These are like the highlight of my year, right? Like last year was amazing. This year got even better. Plus, I had some days off this year, so I was exploring around Heidelberg, hiking and whatnot, and it was just great. Like it was a break. At the same time, it's a lot of work when you're on set.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of energy you put
The
forth.
days are long, right?
The days are like, I think last year we had 12-hour days sometimes. This year it's a little bit less because the schedule is a bit more condensed.
Right.
But yeah, the days are minimum 9 hours, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And high intensity days, right? I mean,
Well, it's like high intensity and then nothing. So like you go from like shouting into the mic, right, and being in front of all those people and being under the lights, and you feel like you're cooking like in a toaster oven or something like that.
Especially the costumes, right?
Exactly. And then you go to the player area and you're just sitting watching Age of Empires.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if we're doing the highlight segment on our time off, I'll sit with Tristan and we'll discuss like what times to send production crew for the highlights.
For the analysis after the games.
Exactly. So we have like a Discord open and we're looking at the timestamps of the games. But it's basically just relaxation at that point, even though we have to be fully paying attention.
Right, we need to be engaged. Right. So I told you I love your casting, but I wonder, how do you measure for yourself whether you did a good job casting or not? I mean, what does good Age of Empires commentary look like for you or sound like?
I don't know. That's a good question. Like I used to really enjoy back when people didn't know me and weren't used to me, because I would get a lot more critical comments, I think. And not like, I don't like the comments that says, I don't like this caster or this caster is bad, but like actually breaking down what is going on. Right. And I haven't had that I haven't seen one of those in like a year. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard for me to judge. I have some personal benchmarks, right? Like if I'm stumbling over something, if I'm just rambling about the same thing over and over again, I'll try and fix that. Or if my brain starts to wander, which is like caster fog, essentially. And you've cast before, you know what happens, right? Like
100% know what you mean.
Like you're thinking about three things at the same time. You're thinking about the game, you're thinking about what to say for your cast, and then you're like analyzing your cast after you've said it, all in your head, all at the same time.
Right. That's what I was wondering as you say this. It's such an interesting point. So you feel like whenever you feel like you're wandering off, it's like a bad thing for you. It's a bad feeling for you. Yeah. Do you realize it right away that you're doing it, or is it only after you listen to yourself afterwards?
I'd say 2 seconds.
Okay.
There's a little bit of lag, right? And if the game is super interesting, that rarely happens. But if the game is, a little bit of a boom fest, 3TC boom fest or whatever, and you're chatting with something else with your co-caster, you don't realize it right away until you suddenly snap back and you're like, I am not fully engaged in this at all. Like, I don't even know. I'm looking at the villager count, but I don't know how we got there, right? Like, when did he add that TC? What is the important thing? I have no idea.
Man, it's amazing that you actually feel those things as well.
Yeah.
I imagine it gets better when you have a co-caster, right? Because it can just yield when you feel like you're not in it, right? And you need a couple of seconds to figure your shit out together,
It is better until you start to wander off, and then they stop speaking, and you realize that you're
now it's my turn.
That's like your silent cue to pick up, right? And then you're just like, But I've been getting better at that. It happens less often now than it did before, especially in these like big tournament moments, because I'm fully focused, fully on, right? But sometimes in the tournaments where it's an 8-hour day, we have like 4 quarterfinals that we're all lined up to do, and it's the 4th one, and it's game number 4. You're just kind of like, well,
and you're on your own.
Exactly. Like casting on your own, I think when you're engaging with the Twitch chat, there's more of a leeway there for wandering off, because I can always look at Twitch chat and say, oh, look at what this person's saying, and then have a conversation with them. Yeah. But when there's a co-caster, it makes things easier to gain energy from them. Also makes it more difficult because of like the moment that I mentioned of just them stopping, you realizing you have to say something, and you have nothing to say.
Such a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
Having said all of that, were you happy with your performance?
I think I was better this year than I was last year, but I think it did a better job last year, if that makes sense. Because the last year I have been casting full time. So I've been improving,
right?
Especially my solo casts have been improving a lot,
right? And when you say you're improving, you mean in these areas that we just discussed before?
In
Not
those
wandering
areas, in my intonation, keeping my voice more level,
off.
the wordplay and everything like that,
Right.
and game knowledge as well. It's all improving slowly. It's all rising up. But last year, I think I went a little bit beyond my abilities for the cast,
I see.
especially particularly in the finals. I think I did a really good job. This year in the finals, I think I did a decent job. It was good. I'm happy with it. The live crowd was amazing for that,
Amazing,
right?
yeah.
And the live crowd's going to cover a lot of those mistakes that I made along the way. So I'm not like displeased with the performance, but I'm not as happy as I was.
Well, I think the better you become, the harder it is to go beyond, right?
Exactly.
I mean, at some point, there's
Same
a
with
ceiling.
everything.
Yeah, same with everything, right?
Yeah.
But I think you guys did an amazing job feeding off the crowd as well,
Mm-hmm.
engaging with the crowd. Well, just all together, you guys were amazing. And I said all 4 of you before, but I obviously meant all 5 of you, because Riley, I'm a huge fan of Riley. I mean, talk about a natural, right? It feels like the guy was born to do this. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Riley just has it, right? So we all have that. Casters all have that to some extent. But Riley's a showman. He's like, you can imagine him in the 1890s at a circus like a traveling
That would be
circus,
him.
right? Like, welcome in, exalted circus goers. We have our lion over here, and we have all of that terrible Australian accent. But
I think the Australian accent makes it for me. I mean, it just tops it off, the Australian accent.
And he's like that. The thing is, like, we like to goof around a lot, me and him. We're like breakfast buddies, so we always sit together at breakfast.
You're very good friends, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've only known him for a couple weeks now combined, but I would consider him a good friend of mine, and he's just like that. Like, every time we took the bus up to the castle, there's a place called Apfelland, which is just Apple Land. But we thought it was absolutely hilarious for some reason, because it was like a shack in the middle of a field. And every time we take this bus, like, Tristan needs to sit near us, because it's like, only the most succulent apples in Germany. And he goes off on these things. He's got the best accents, like he does impersonations. You'll never find these apples anywhere else other than the countryside of Germany.
I need to hear his German accent. Man,
it's
I
so
need to hear
good.
that. I need that for myself.
So he's just he's a big goofball, and he's a showman. He's super professional.
Right.
Like, makes me feel like I'm a nobody that just showed up, right? Like, he meticulously writes everything down, researches everything. And that's the reason he can go and do like an AoE 4 event, which he's never really played before. And he's never really played AoE 2 before these events started. And he still doesn't like actively play AoE 2, but he can do that because he absorbs information.
Right. Very quickly. Amazing. I don't know if I told you this before, but I was actually indirectly responsible for Red Bull hiring Riley. Did you know this?
I know that, like, Nadine was in, like, one of our costume people was involved as well.
Oh no, this was way before that.
Oh,
so
okay.
I think his first Age of Empires event was Red Bull Wololo 3, right?
It was 4.
Was it 4?
It was 4.
Right, 4. You're totally right. It was
3
4.
was 3 was Little T, or was that 4?
Little Trouble, probably. Well, I don't remember anymore. Anyway, Red Bull contacted me for that event. They wanted me to host the event. Back then, I just barely started the podcast. So the request came way too late for me, so I didn't have any time to prepare, which I hate, so I ended up declining.
Yeah.
And me declining meant they had to keep looking for someone else, and so they ended up with Riley. It's it's one of those decisions. Wasn't easy to make in the moment, but now, man, am I glad I actually did it. But Dave, let's talk about the winner.
Yeah.
Tato, what a beast, man. What a beast. Considering how the tournament went and how many times Tato had been so close to winning an S-tier tournament, would you actually consider this result an upset?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Although, we were joking about it today with Leary's track record. Like, we were talking about
Losing
people
finals
throwing games, and I mentioned, like, he's been there 5 times, but he's only won twice. Like, he's 2 and 3 in the finals of this tournament, right? So I would consider it an upset, simply because Leary in Empire Wars is crazy. And Tato, I would have said maybe 5th most likely coming into this tournament to win it. I would have had, like, Leary in front. Definitely Hera was my favorite. And Tato beat him. Viper, Yo, and then probably Tato after that.
But I mean, considering how the tournament went and seeing how he beat Hera in the semifinals, seeing him beat Leary in the group stage, we were still surprised that he actually took it.
Oh, once he got into the semis, I knew he could do it. I thought Hera was going to be his toughest matchup to get past. Hera didn't look amazing, but Tato looked incredible in that set. And once he got to the finals, I was probably 55% Leary. 45% Tato. So it was really, really close. I didn't know what I was going to get coming in there. And I'm super happy for the result because he kind of mixed it up a little bit. For a long time in Empire Wars, what we saw was like that Archer snowball from Leary, right? The early pressure. And then Tato, he kind of mixes it up. Sometimes he walls, sometimes he goes for something like step lancers or the play on shoals with the Italians against the Bohemians.
What a game.
Was beautiful as well. Utilizing the water and the land, pushing in two places at once. He's got such a great map sense, game awareness, everything like that combined into a package where he also has the execution and he can get things done. It's a joy to watch.
Do you actually feel like he has changed his approach to the game for this tournament, or do you think he was just that well prepared?
I think he got better in terms of mental preparation.
Right.
I don't think his emotions are affecting him as much as they used to.
You think they were before? Okay.
Yes. Well, I mean, you don't go 0-16 in decider matches without having some form of mental blockage or something like that. I don't know what, like nerves or whatever it is, right? And then he finally snapped that like 2 months ago, and he beat Hera up 4-1 in RMS Cup. And I believe there was a tournament before then where he overcame a decider game.
Wasn't it Titans League?
It was RMS Cup and then it was Titans League. But I think there might have even been something before that. It's all blended together in my mind now. But I really remember that Hera set, and I remember thinking like, okay, Tato is finally over the hump. And now the confidence he gets from winning a tournament like this, I think is huge, honestly. Because we always see it, right? Like someone will win a big tournament and then suddenly they're the big dog for like 2 years after that. Everyone says, oh, this guy's the favorite heading in here. And it must just give you some form of confidence.
I always thought Tato was such an incredibly smart guy. And I mean, not only Age of Empires smart. I mean, you can tell when you talk to him. He's just an intelligent individual. And he obviously knows a lot about Age of Empires too. I mean, he won my quiz, so he's got to know something. So I often wondered what kept him from winning more tournaments. And you seem to be implying that that's that whole mental thing that he needed to go through.
Mental thing. Also, he spent like 2 weeks practicing nonstop.
And they have a mental coach in the camp, right?
I'm not sure if they had it this year. I know they had it last year. This year, I know they were doing fitness stuff. They probably had the mental coach. But I think it really like improved his execution as well. Even just slightly makes a huge difference. And the mental aspect is massive. And then like his teammates got kicked out. So it wasn't only him, doing it for himself. It was kind of like there was 4 of us qualified. And now my whole team is just hoping that I win. Exactly. So he had like an extra responsibility on him.
And I mean, he's such an incredibly likable guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone has ever said a bad word about him or anything. Always respectful, always polite. Before coming here today, I just watched a couple of videos that people were posting on the forums. That was him arriving at the Gamer Legion viewing party, everybody cheering, all his teammates hugging him. I think Dowd was almost in tears. Such an incredible moment for old Age of Empires fans like the two of us, right? Amazing to see that coming together. Apart from Tato, was impressed you the most in this tournament?
Ooh, apart from Tato, I think Valessa was really good.
Valessa
was super solid, and I was actually really impressed with his attitude because I saw him in the courtyard before that first semis, and he was like excited. Which is not an emotion you see very often from Valessa, right? And I spent a decent amount of time hanging out with Valessa and everyone else, and it felt like it was his chance. And then I think he just got up there, and it all kind of washed over him. The crowd, the drums that were so loud, right? Like all of that stuff just kind of culminated in him not having his best performance. So he was impressive. MBL actually impressed me with the attitude of showing up with no practice, no preparation, and just trusting himself.
Still doing really good.
Well, it was a very deliberate thing from him because he knew if you either go full practice and try hard, and
but
I think
you can't match the other people's practice time, right?
Or you just play games, keep up your technical ability,
Right.
and show up with nothing in your head and just trust yourself. So that's what he did in the beginning. And then in the semifinal against Hera, I think he I don't know what happened there, but it was it didn't look good. So he did impress me in the earlier stages, though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, what was your favorite game of the tournament, actually?
I think it might be the NBL game where he was Chinese against Franks against Kapach.
Again, NBL versus Kapach. I think I missed that series.
Yeah.
That was group stage, obviously.
Yeah, so basically what happened is Kapach had 6 castles all around his base, literally all around his base, and NBL had 2 castles in the very middle, and he was pushing against Kapach, and Kapach started raiding his base, and NBL's like, screw it, I'll just make everything in the middle. He relocated his entire economy to the center of the map, and Kapach was completely surrounding him, and he won the game. It was incredible.
Awesome. Starting to become a little bit of a classic matchup, right?
Yeah.
Kapach and NBL.
Yeah.
So last year in Red Bull Wololo 5, I think a lot of people were shocked, by the scope and by the size of the whole tournament, especially those of us who've been around for ages. Now, obviously, the stakes for this tournament this year were higher, had more games involved, AoE 1, 2, and 4, a higher prize pool, a live audience. But to you as a caster, did the whole tournament also feel like it was a whole step above last year's? I mean, would you say that Red Bull 5 still made a bigger impression on you just because it was the first time?
I think the live audience stepped it up. If we exclude the final day, I think the tournament last year made a bigger impact
Smashed
on me.
Harder. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you show up at this castle and you're like, oh my God, And then I said it to, I forget who I was walking with when we first entered the castle this year. It's like, I wish I had never come here before so I could feel that again,
the
right?
First time, right?
And then you enter again, it feels like you're back to work. It's still amazing. But the live audience, the way they set up that great hall was incredible.
Full, right? It looked completely full.
Oh, completely full.
Right.
And there was people standing there. There was people trying to get in. Like, if you saw an empty seat, it was because someone was in the washroom.
Okay.
Essentially, because it was completely full. And I remember walking in there yesterday when the people were just filtering in, and I got like the goosebumps, right? Hair standing on end because it was just amazing.
I mean, even myself from the computer, I was just watching a computer screen and I still could feel it. Amazing. From what I could gather, the viewership numbers were pretty similar to last year's Red Bull 5, maybe very slightly lower. So we're talking about 75,000 live viewers across all platforms. Still incredible numbers, no doubt. But, considering there was more investment from Microsoft and Red Bull this time around, a lot more publicity for the event.
Yeah.
Does this mean we've probably hit the ceiling as a community when it comes to audience for live games?
I don't think so. I think there was a lot of mitigating factors here. So T90 and Viper no longer on Twitch. Mm-hmm. That's a big portion of people that probably only consumed AoE2 content through them. Mm-hmm. And them not...
Probably gone now.
Sharing, yeah, exactly. And them not really having that at the forefront in all of their... maybe
Socials.
YouTube videos and socials coming up. I mean, Viper, 100%, right? T90 is less, he's more like community game focused and stuff like that. But them not being on Twitch is more of the big thing. But caused people to stop watching the category. I think that's a big hit to the viewer numbers. Also think the 4-day gap in between with AoE 4, which if you're going to do all the games you basically have to have,
right.
Is obviously going to hurt the tournament viewership. So I don't know. Red Bull is more concerned with how the event looks. As long as they hit a baseline of viewers, they're more concerned with how the event looks. They're not always trying to push for that new viewer count.
Right.
They're just trying to get people to associate their brand with this grand scale, amazing event. And that's the consistent message I've heard from every single Red Bull employee I've talked to.
Right. Amazing. And I think it's important to note here that despite the numbers being very slightly lower than last year's, I think on Twitch at least, Age of Empires 2 is still far and beyond the most popular game on Red Bull's Twitch channel, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
I
far and
think
beyond.
so. I think so.
I think so
I
too.
don't watch them all the time. I mean, I follow them, but I don't really.
Right.
You know,
Right,
if it's
right.
like Tekken or something, I'm not tuning in. I'm
Street
not looking at the
Fighter.
viewer numbers exactly. So I think it's good for them. Also, a lot of the Red Bull staff are AOE2 fans,
Amazing.
so they love it. They loved what we did last year.
Right.
They don't like queue up, but they watch it, right?
Right. Right.
And a lot of them came here from League of Legends,
League of Legends,
events that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one in New York, a couple. I believe there was an event there. A couple of them came from that one. They're like, yeah, we're super stoked to watch some Age. So
Amazing. Amazing. Now, Dave, not even the greatest of tournaments are immune to criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the critiques that has been brought up by a couple of folks was that the format of the tournament felt rushed. I mean, you have folks like Kingston or Daniel who traveled half the globe to get here,
Yep.
got to play 2 best of 3s, and then we're gone. We're eliminated. And let's not forget that initially the tournament was supposed to be single elimination, which means you lose once, you're out. Then there's the fact one of the quarterfinals was relegated to a B stream, which because we were out of time. So would you agree it was a little bit too rushed? It felt rushed?
100%.
Okay.
100% too rushed. I think everyone would agree it was too rushed. But I mean, you're trying to celebrate a 25th anniversary of a game. You have 3 different titles, even though AOE1 was only 1 game.
Bit of a
Although they
sideshow.
had an amazing production value for their stuff in Vietnam. So
qualifiers,
that was
saw it, man.
I watched that, was like, oh my God.
You watched it live?
Well, I watched the video of it. It was
Yeah.
crazy. But AOE4 as well, which is a year old. It was definitely rushed, right? We went to the best of 3 double elimination because single elimination, everyone disagreed with that.
That would
And-
mean 1 game and you're out.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't want people traveling for that. And I think Red Bull agreed, and they changed it based on our feedback. But I also, at the same time, I think like Age of Empires 2 fans in particular are they're very entitled. Very, very entitled. A lot of other fan bases, especially with these big tournaments, like they don't get any say on how things are going to do. Like they're just told how it's going to pan out, and they just have to deal with it, right? The AOE2 community, it's like a lot of back and forth between tournament organizers. And
Do
I
you think this is a remnant of the older times when everybody and no one was verbally official organizing everything?
100%.
Right?
100%. Yeah. And the way our tournament structure works is that like a caster organizes a tournament or a streamer organizes a tournament. If a setting is not popular with the community, oftentimes it gets changed.
Right.
Like that doesn't happen
Anywhere else?
in other esports, right? And I think like there's a reality check that needs to happen with AOE2 fans to a certain extent. To be, I don't want to say like just be grateful, because that's not, I feel like that is also bad in a way, but just be aware of the fact that there's so many production stuff, technical stuff, admin work that goes into it that you can't always have your cake and eat it too.
Right. There's only so much you can
Exactly.
influence as a
I think
fan.
it's legitimate criticism that the event felt kind of rushed because we're used to longer stuff like that. But with the time frames we had, I think it's the best we could do, honestly.
I'm just wondering, we had 2 days without competition, Monday and Tuesday.
Yep.
Was it totally impossible to try to fit in a couple of games there?
Monday and Tuesday doesn't make sense because you have to switch everything around for AOE4. You have to get all the players in, everything. It's a huge, like,
But it was 2 different rooms, right?
2 different rooms, but they switched the entire production thing over there.
Right.
All the same equipment. They switched to that great hall
I see.
for that. So having
So they needed a time
they
to move
they
everything
literally
around,
needed
yeah.
a day and a half to
Right.
move everything, right?
Right.
And you're bringing in all the players. You're getting them all settled, which means all the like the staff taking care of the players situation, the production crew behind the scenes, getting people set up with their PCs and everything, practice PCs and whatnot, need to be shifted over to that as well. So it's really easy to say like, oh, they had an extra day,
Right. Right.
but it doesn't
Yeah, it's the type of thing.
logistically it doesn't make sense. And also for viewership, like Monday is not the greatest day for that. So
Right, and the higher stakes game would have been there, right? Would have been
Yeah.
on Monday and Tuesday,
Yeah.
right? If we get another edition of the tournament next year, should we consider having fewer players? What would you say? It's still better to have a somewhat rushed tournament, but still give more players the opportunity to witness
I don't know what
the
it would.
land.
I don't know what it would look like. I feel like Fewer players might be good, like 12 players instead of 16. But I'm not, dude, you're asking the wrong guy about tournament settings, because literally unless it's like a Red Bull professional thing like this, if I show up to cast a tournament, I'm looking at Wikipedia with my chat before a tournament. Like, is this or I'm asking my chat, I'm like, is this best of 7? And then they give me 15 different answers.
You have to
How does the Civ draft work? Yeah. So I don't really like to think about tournament format. I just enjoy the games a little bit.
All right, David, this is probably going to be a bit of a harder question, but I want to talk to you about the choice of casters for the tournament.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, in Age of Empires, as in any other game, the most popular casters will be given more and better opportunities. But I do feel for folks like Ornlu and Lidacor, who've obviously been waiting for an opportunity to be involved in the Red Bull series for a long time. And in both cases, we're not talking about people who are now just starting as casters. They are both very experienced casters, right? Now, of course, the easy answer would be, well, grow a bigger channel, get more popular. But I think everyone at some point has benefited from the fact they were given an opportunity. Now, I wonder how do you, as one of the prime casters in the scene, one of the most popular ones in the scene, view their situation? What should they be doing differently to get more opportunities?
It's Red Bull's choice. They get a list and then they pick, right?
Okay, so
they don't care about like following, really. They just get a list. They look at that is such an old mindset in AoE, where we used to bring in people based on their following, right? Like
that's not how it works.
They get a list of people, right? And then they get clips of those people casting, and then they say, we want this one, this one, this one, this one, this one.
Crazy.
That's the way it works for events, right? And then they dictate it. So, I mean, I think like we definitely need to do, I think, a better job. I think we've done it pretty well in our own homegrown events, like bringing in co-casters and stuff like that.
I mean, Mem, for example,
exactly
a lot of new people all the time.
And like I've cast with Ornlu, I've cast with Nova, who I really enjoy. I've cast with Ellie before. There's like a whole list of people, smaller, not small, but like mid-sized casters that I've done casting with before. I mean, we just need to incorporate them into the homegrown events, but for like these big ones, we don't really have a say. Like we just give them the names and then they pick.
If you had to guess,
yeah,
why are they picking you guys and not Ornlu, for example?
I think we just have like a more, I don't know, just like a more broad-based reach, if that makes sense. There's like a certain,
based on how you cast, or
exactly
type of content.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So for them, they're trying to reach like the biggest base of people that they can, right? So they want someone who's, I won't say that they're looking more not for enjoyable, they're looking on the spectrum of who offends like the least amount of people, because viewer retention is so important when you have large scale events. So. I don't know. That's
hard to say.
My guess. Like I said, they just get a list and then they look at the clips and then they pick people. And I'm fortunate enough that they like me, and I've been here for 6 iterations now, and I get to cast every final with my best friend. So I mean, like, I can't complain. I definitely know what it feels like for Ornlu and Lidacor, because I went through that as well. Like the ECL events, I would never get picked for like the big stuff. I think NAC 2 as well. I didn't get an invite from Nilly when I feel like I should have. But once I did get that at NAC 3, I haven't looked back from then, and I'm super fortunate for that. So I get the frustration, because I was definitely frustrated in the past. But my mindset was, and I think Tristan and I share this in common. Like, my mindset was like, if someone has more viewers than me, if someone is getting more opportunities than me, I just need to, I just get better. I just need to get better.
So just keep going at it. Just don't stop.
If they have more than me, then I'm doing something. I'm not doing something to my fullest potential. So I just need to get better.
Right.
So, and that's nothing against them, because like I like watching Ornlu cast. I like watching Leadercore cast, right? Like I watch them cast events when I'm not doing it myself. I love Nova. Like I said, Nova's a great caster.
Argentinian, like
yeah,
him too.
yeah, lots of energy. And he used to do the thing where he would like draw on stream.
Oh, cool.
With like the
Haven't seen
football
that.
thing. Yeah, that was cool. I don't know if he does it anymore, but I remember seeing that and thinking like, that's so cool. So yeah, it's not, I'm just saying it from my perspective. That's how I viewed it.
Of course, of course. Okay, so the final of Age of Empires 4 tournament will still be happening later tonight.
Yeah.
And a lot of good things have been coming for Age of Empires 4 recently. As far as I can tell, the community is really happy with the state of the game right now, right? The price of the game has been reduced. There's no free DLC that brings 2 new civs with it. There's obviously a $300,000 tournament going on right now. So has your interest in Age of Empires 4 been rekindled by all these positive developments?
More by watching the games. Because I got into it in M4C. I really enjoyed my time there. Like, it wasn't AoE 2. The way I like to say is, like, AoE 4 is a good game. AoE 2 is a great game, right? Like, a game I'm going to consistently go back for. But I played AoE 4 for 3 months, so it's obviously good. I didn't play it for 3 weeks, right? And I played it offline, off stream, so it wasn't just me doing it for my viewers. N4C, getting to know the players, talking strategies. There's a lot of like depth there that you don't initially realize. And now I'm seeing that again, especially when I watch like a player like the Misto I'm really good friends with. There's a lot of strategy and the game seems to be in a pretty good state.
Right.
So I need to like, I keep saying to everyone, I need to play it again. But I just don't want to go through those first 20 games. The first 20 games to get reacclimated and get like used to it again. It's such a barrier, and I just keep looking at that wall, and I'm like, I should play it again, but
it's when you start a new show, right?
Yeah.
It's probably going to be good, but the first few episodes.
Exactly. And I mean, I've watched the show before, but season 2 or whatever.
Right.
I don't know when I'm going to get back into it. I will eventually, but AoE 2 always just calls me. Back.
Right. As
over.
far as I know, you were asked to be a caster for Age of Empires 4 in this tournament too, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you declined the offer. So do you regret having declined the offer, or are you actually happy you had a few days off to relax?
I think it would be doing a disservice to the AoE4 community if I were to cast that because I don't have the requisite game knowledge. So I didn't feel like it would be kind of fair to them to just see me come in. And that's...
Okay, so you did have a couple of free days after the Age of Empires 2 tournament. What did you do in your days off here?
I went hiking. I went hiking with a motley crew of adventurers, as Riley would say, up to the top of the mountain, and it was fun. I met a Twitch viewer, and then we brought along
randomly.
He lives here. So
totally randomly.
No. Okay. He messaged me and he's like, "I live here. We'll go to a monastery. We'll drink beer at the top of the mountain." Awesome. So then I asked a couple people, and then a couple became like 8. And I got to see the fitness state of some of our AoE2 gamers going up the mountain and realized that I don't quite work out enough either. But we made it to the top and we had a great day. And then the next day I did exactly the same thing with Jordan, who runs upstairs.
Yeah. He's really in shape, Jordan. Right?
Yeah, he runs upstairs and then he sits there and he looks at you. Like with that smile on his face. But we made it. I made it out alive, and it was great.
Awesome. It's got to be so good for someone who sits in front of the computer the whole day, right?
Yeah.
To stretch a little bit, move a little bit. Awesome. Dave, you've worked in marketing before, right?
Yep.
So Red Bull is not getting back the amount of money they invest in these kinds of tournaments, right? Why do they keep doing this? What's in it for them?
That's their entire marketing strategy. So they spend 50%. Usual marketing budget is like, on the low scale, it's 2% of company revenue, right? On the higher scale, it's like 20%. 25 is a lot. Red Bull, their marketing strategy is they spend like 50% on
they're
marketing.
just so massive versus the way they operate?
They want their brand to be associated with amazing events. And this isn't like me taking it from the Red Bull guys. This is like, we literally had case studies on Red Bull in college, right? So they want to be associated with grand scale events, and they want their name to be the forefront in energy drinks, which they are right now. They have a very comfortable, sizable lead over at like Monster. Which would be the next best, And basically, they want that brand share and name recognition, so that every time a store goes to stock energy drinks,
They start with Red Bull.
we want Red Bull, right? Monster, maybe, but we definitely want Red Bull. And that means that every single convenience store, every single gas station, every single store near here stocks Red Bull. And they sell it for what? $4 a can?
Pretty
€4 a
expensive,
can?
yeah.
A can costs like 10 cents to produce. So it's all marketing strategy to get that distribution network out there. And that's why they can hold these big events. That's why they can have, a million fridges at the castle and just be like, yeah, take one, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I mentioned to them, oh, I only ever got one case of Red Bull. And the Red Bull guy looks at me. He's like, yeah, talk to us. We'll send you 60 a month. I'm like, for how long? He's like, how long do you want? What?
It's that easy. It's that
Excuse
easy.
me. Yeah. So that's their company model. And I think they've done a great job not moving away from that. They've stuck to that model, and they've just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger in their promotional strategy. A lot of companies, I feel like they would have a executive reshuffle or something like that, and the policy would change to like money saving, which wouldn't be good for Red Bull.
It's not their thing.
That would be negative, very negative for Red Bull if they started like chipping away at the amount of money they spend. If anything, they need to spend more just to keep that market share.
Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we can expect another version of this tournament
I don't know.
next year.
I
probably.
honestly, I don't know.
Yeah,
Everyone
right,
keeps
right.
asking me, and I don't know.
Right.
So
Even if you knew, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't
Yeah.
be allowed to share. All right, Dave. This year's edition of Red Bull Wololo marks another very important milestone in your career.
Yep.
It's now been 1 year since you made the decision to quit your job and become a full-time streamer, right? It's a decision that had been long time in the making for you, but ended up being kind of forced on you when your boss refused to let you take time off from work to come here for last year's Red Bull. So how's the experience been so far? Are you happy with the decision?
it's funny because I remember the last podcast I did with you. You asked me if I wanted to do full-time streaming.
It's
and
right here.
I said, I don't think I could do that.
Right.
So, and I wasn't lying, right? So, and my response, if I remember correctly, my response to you was like, I'd have to do other games other than just AoE 2. I've done that a little bit, but I've mostly stuck with AoE 2. I think it's good. I wasn't prepared for the downtimes when there's no tournaments to cast, right? Like having to fill that gap of content is really difficult, and it kind of weighs on my mind. But one thing I've found really helpful, and I think it suits my personality, if I don't feel like I'm going to be 100%, I'm not going to stream.
You just don't stream.
And if I feel myself slipping, which I do sometimes when I'm frustrated in streams, I'll usually just cut it off. So like I've gotten past the point where I don't care if I only have a 4-hour stream. As long as I was good for those 4 hours,
and I think
that's
the
fine.
content is good.
Yeah, that's
very
fine.
important. Very important point. I feel like a lot of streamers just think just quantity, right? And then you end up, neglecting your mental health and all those kinds of things. Right. So I kind of hate to bring up money here, but last time we talked, that was episode 3 of my podcast. One of the concerns you had was whether you would be able to make at least the same amount of money you were making in your old job. Now, I believe I heard you say on stream you were close to 2,000 subscribers, which is a truly impressive number, especially considering you've only been doing this for a year. So is it safe to assume those concerns have been somewhat mitigated?
Yeah, I'm not making as much, but it's close.
Okay.
It's close. Plus, I pay more in taxes. Jeez.
Being a streamer?
Yeah, of course.
I have no clue how that works. Why is that?
So it's like, Canadian tax system. I don't know. I'll talk to my tax accountant, then I'll fill you in.
All right.
I'm not fully aware yet, so I'm dreading the day when it all gets taken out.
No, because it's only been 1 year since you started doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
great.
like the 2,000 sub thing, like that's it's an amazing number. I can't believe I'm there. I'm probably, when I go back, I'm gonna be at like 500 because I've been gone for 2 weeks.
Right.
But
it's got to be so hard for the streamer.
It's hard when 30 days prior you got like 400 gifted on a day, which is amazing. And then you see the little stat bar. You look over 1 second, you're at like 1,900. You look over the next second, you're at 1,500. You're like, whoa, how do I make up for this discrepancy, right? But that's just the life of being a streamer. And anyway, I was going to say like the 2,000 subs, because of regional pricing, because of all those other factors, because the revenue split is only 50-50. It's like a lot of people think like, oh, 2,000 subs, that's $10,000. Well, no, it's not really, because I only take half of that. And then there's
And you pay taxes on those 50%, right? You still pay taxes.
Yeah. And
on
then
those 50%.
fees for like PayPal and whatnot. And then we have regional pricing. So some of those people are only paying $2 for a sub, which means I only get $1. And then regional pricing for gifting subs. And it's like, yeah.
So the concerns have not been totally mitigated.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm doing well and I'm very grateful. Like I'm super grateful for it, for my viewers, for everyone that supports me, for Red Bull, obviously, Nili for bringing me to N4C. But I just worry about like longevity, right? How long is this game going to stay around? How long are people going to keep watching me do my thing? I don't know.
Right. I feel like you haven't really answered though. Are you happy with the experience so far? Are you happy with the decision?
I think so. There's certain elements I'm not. I don't meet people all that often anymore, which is, I think, something that every streamer struggles with. But in terms of not feeling a consistent stress about work-related stuff, and like the biggest thing I've noticed, Sunday evening, I'm not just sitting there like, oh, my weekend is over. I have to go to work tomorrow, you know?
Right.
It's just like, well, do I want to stream tomorrow? No? Okay, fine.
Awesome.
Not going to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. This is certainly not true for everybody, Dave, but I've noticed that a lot of the folks who made the risky decision to commit full-time to streaming were folks who were unhappy with their previous jobs. I mean, you got the case of T90, for example. He used to work in retail, I think, right? A job he told me he was very unhappy with. Then there's Mem, who was also very unhappy with some parts of his old job as a police officer. So I guess for those guys, though still a very risky decision, their calculations were probably something like, well, I hate my job anyway. Might as well give this whole streaming thing a shot, you know? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, you had a decently stable job, right? You didn't necessarily hate. So, well, what is it about streaming you like so much that made it worth it for you to quit your old job?
I think it was me thinking, if I don't take that opportunity, I'm always going to wonder what would have happened. Yeah. And then, I don't know. I had a stable following. I knew I could do it for at least 1 year, at least, and then go from there. So I've done the year. I think I'm planning on like at least another year, and I'm hoping that it just keeps doing that. You know, like I get a year from now, and I'm like, oh, 1 more year, and then 1 more year, and then 1 more year, and then eventually I'm at a place where I'm very, very comfortable. So who knows? I just did it because I didn't want to always kind of think about the possibility of doing something and not having done it.
But the part that you like about streaming is this freedom. You were speaking.
Freedom is big. Yeah, I don't like really having a schedule. I like making that myself, and I get energy from chat, right? From
chat, yeah.
From big tournaments, from things like that. I enjoy getting better as a caster too, because it feels like it's something that I naturally lean towards. So I'm kind of like utilizing my natural abilities.
Right.
Which
it always
maybe
feels
I wasn't,
good when you know
exactly.
it's something you tend
which
to
maybe
like.
I wasn't doing in marketing as much behind a computer screen. So.
Right. Amazing. You kind of talked about this, but I wonder if there are more. Were there any challenges you've encountered in this past year as a full-time streamer that surprised you? Something you didn't expect to be a problem for you? You mentioned kind of these downturns between tournaments that were a little bit taxing on you.
Just the downtimes.
Right.
Like just the downtimes, and then I don't know, worrying, like, because I told you that I don't want to stream if I'm not 100% on, but then I worry about, you know, the time I'm not streaming.
Is it enough?
And it's just consistently at the back of my head, and then I worry about, like, if I have a great stream, I'm kind of like, yeah, that was great and everything, and kind of thinking back to the stream. If I have a bad one where I only have, 10 new followers or like 10 or 20 subs or something like that. Right? Yeah. And then the worst is Streamlabs, because Streamlabs, if you have a good stream, they're like, you're on fire, 400 more subs than usual, And then if you have a bad stream with no up analytics, they send you one like, keep up the grind, and that's just that. And you get that email like 10 minutes after the stream ends. You're just like, oh, another keep up the grind. No, throw it away. And it's so weird. It's so weird too, because sometimes I'm having a great time. I feel like it's great content, and there's no like visual support for that, right? Like the chat obviously is there sharing their energy, but all the people I know are enjoying themselves. I'm enjoying myself. But then there's no new follows, no new subs or anything like that. There's no tangible element of that. And then
Yeah.
sometimes I'm having an awful stream and an awful experience, and they're like throwing money at me, and it's just like, guys, come on.
You know what? I think that's the beauty of live streaming, because people feel these things.
Yeah.
No matter how hard you try to hide it from your viewers, they feel if you're having a good stream
Yeah.
or not, right?
Yeah.
And some people are going to be, come on, Dave, I'm going to give you 50 subs now just to cheer you up, you know?
Yeah.
And people do that if they like a streamer, right? That's kind of an amazing thing. When I had Spirit of the Law on the show, that's episode 15, for those of you who haven't watched it, he said something I'd never really thought about, but it made so much sense to me. He said that most 30 and 40-year-olds who enjoy gaming today are probably going to keep enjoying it well into their 70s and 80s, right? And that might not sound crazy to a lot of the younger folks, but I'm sure you also experienced this, Dave. When I was growing up, playing computer games was something that only teenagers do, right? And it was something they ought to grow out of. At some point, you become an adult, you stop playing computer games. That's what's supposed to happen. Well, that certainly did not happen to me. And as I look around in our community and other communities, it seems to me like it didn't happen to a lot of people. So if Spirit's prediction holds true here, and we will keep all enjoying playing computer games well into our 80s.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself streaming until you retire?
One more year. One more year. I don't know, dude. I'm not thinking about that. I don't want to think about that. I don't know.
It's just too uncertain.
Yeah, I don't know. Life takes you in weird ways, right? So I like when people ask about, I'm not a big 5-year plan, 10-year plan kind of guy. I'm like a 1-year plan kind of guy. My fridge is okay. My fridge is empty. Okay. And I go and buy groceries to make myself dinner every night, or I order in food. I don't like keep stuff in there. I'm just kind of do things day by day. So that's my
okay, you don't like to think about what's in 5 years. I totally understand. It's
because
just
there's so many variables.
Yeah.
Why bother?
Yeah,
Why
it's
bother
just
thinking about 5 years in advance when things can change in an instant tomorrow? Just live.
And I think
the
this is
day.
something that it's also a lot more common today, or it was a lot more common in the past, that people stick to one job their
Yeah,
whole lives,
yeah,
right? My father has been in his company for, 50 years or something. And I think nowadays people like to pursue other things.
Yeah.
Even if they actually enjoy the one thing they're pursuing right now, right? Okay, Dave, let's turn our attention to Age of Empires 2 and to the future Age of Empires 2. It looks like your title as the best controller player will soon be challenged by a lot of people. Age of Empires 2 will be available for the Xbox, and there will be crossplay between PC users and Xbox users. Now, I personally always thought that one of the biggest reasons Fortnite was so successful was because you can play it on every possible device, right? And so I think this move by Microsoft could maybe have some very positive consequences for the franchise. Now, I obviously don't know how eager console users are going to be to try a type of game that obviously was very specifically designed to be played on PC.
Yeah.
But what do you make of this announcement? Big, not so big?
Well, I think it's big because I've seen on all of their stuff on Twitter or on social media, every time they post Age of Empires stuff, someone's asking about Xbox. It's been a very long time. Someone's asking about Xbox. I've seen people ask me in my controller streams and stuff about Xbox, and I think the view from the hardcore AoE2 people is that those Xbox players are going to want to play against other people. I think that's not true. I think those people want to play against AI.
Okay.
And they just want to chill, get home from work, and play an RTS.
Right.
So rare for an RTS to be on console.
Right.
I think there's a huge, massive opportunity if it's rolled out correctly and if it's a fun game to play. What I've seen of the gameplay, I don't know. I have to watch the full video. I've only seen clips of it. It's very different. The UI is extremely different from the normal game. There's some automation and stuff like that. I think there's an opportunity to reach a huge market. You'll definitely get a decent following on it. Whether you get that massive influx of new players is a different question.
I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
So Xbox users will be able to play with a mouse and a keyboard or with a controller. And we were told, you just said it, in the case of people playing with a controller, some parts of the game will be automated in order to compensate for the inherent advantage of playing with a mouse and a keyboard. There's a video, I don't know if you saw it, from Adam Is Green, I think it's his name. That's the creative director for the franchise. And he was saying they want to give controller players the tools to be competitive against PC players. I'm not sure what competitive means here, but I guess we can try to assume what it means. Now, this is not exclusive to Age of Empires, of course, right? I mean, games like Warzone, for example, it's one game that I used to follow. They have a system where controller
Aim
users...
assist.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Controller users benefit from aim assist, which has been the cause of endless discussions.
Oh, yeah. They have it in... I follow Apex, and it's just like,
Is it the same thing?
Oh, yeah. There's mouse and keyboard players switching to controller to get aim assist. There's hybrid players that do mouse and keyboard and then controller in the close fights. So yeah.
Right. Is that discussion coming to our community at some point?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So from what I saw and like the automation element of it, let's use an analogy. Town bell versus garrisoning villagers. You always garrison
Garrisoning
villagers.
is better. Yeah.
Good players garrison villagers. Right?
It's just more precise when you're
It's
a
more
human doing
precise,
stuff.
and when you get good enough at something, you want that precision. You want to control it yourself, right? The automation for the controllers, from what I've seen, I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna get into Xbox and then turn off all that stuff.
Okay.
To be better. So I'm really doubting they can implement something that will make controllers so strong that PC people can't fight up against it, because there's so many. Think about the complexity of this game. If someone doesn't have the motor function to even micro with you, there's so many different ways you can punish them. Even if they have a super automated robot eco behind that, you can just run around their military for days, right? You can take map control. You can wall them out because their eco is automated. They're not paying attention to it. Oh, wow, there's a wall in between my mill and my farm. Like, there's so many ways to punish it, right? So I'm not worried. Until I see something, I'm not going to even like speculate on that being OP, because I don't see how they would implement it.
And one thing that I thought about is that the AI is still very easy to beat as a human if you're a good human player, right? So even if a lot of AI is implemented into the controller player's game, it's still the AI,
yeah,
right?
like
and
think about the extreme AI eco, and what are you doing as a controller player? You're just controlling what units you make. I can still beat extreme AI
with a controller,
with mouse only, yeah. Literally. So it's just kind of hard for me to envision a world where everything would be that OP, unless they have something like, the only thing that might be OP that I can see them adding to the game is automatic conversions with monks, or monks with patrol. That is the only thing that, and now I would love it as a controller player, because it would be hilarious, right? To watch people rage at me, patrolling monks so mega low, right?
Just a controller player.
Yeah, but even that can be punished, I feel like. If it's a patrolling monk, you send one scout, all the monks go to that same scout.
And then you bring the rest.
Yeah, and then they have no faith. So even stuff like that can be super punished by people that know what's going on. Maybe there's a little bit of a concern down at like the 1000 elo or something like that. Controller would be 600, but with the improvements, he's 1000. Maybe the 1000 elo player is frustrated by that, but they match up against people that are better than
their
all
levels,
the time.
And then at some point, maybe at the beginning, it's going to be a little bit confusing.
The aim assist, or whatever we want to call it, controller assist argument only happens once it gets to like the top 100. Once that player becomes very competitive,
right? Because
the players below that always have someone better than them,
right.
So they can just get better.
Good point. Yeah. Okay, Dave, skins are coming for Age of Empires 3.
Yeah.
And after speaking with Will in this podcast, that was episode 11, and seeing how he didn't completely reject the idea of skins for Age of Empires 2, I'm pretty sure this is being either very seriously considered, or maybe has even already been decided. And I'm kind of sure that some sort of skins are going to be coming for Age of Empires 2 in the future. What do you make of that?
Good. Why not? As long as it's not pay to win, it's more money injected into the game. It means the game keeps running. They keep putting funds into our tournament scene. I think the skins, though, are very difficult because we have the open mod center. So if
already
you want,
allows
you want, and I don't think they'll ever take away that mod center, because that's
they would have to, right?
That's a lot of community retention based on people making mods, having mods, and stuff like that. And as soon as they take that away, people will leave because they can't play their favorite whatever thing. Skins, if you want the other player to see it, can be abused then, right? Like what if, okay, so right now you could technically make a mod where all your villagers are invisible or all your army is invisible, right?
It would have to be approved.
But
by
it's
Microsoft,
only
right?
but it's only for you. It's only for you. If they make skins for your opponent, suddenly I feel like that system can be completely abused, and that's open for abuse from people, right?
I mean, if you make skins that your opponent can see.
And yeah, and if we still have an open mod center, which I said I don't think they'll ever take away, if they release like a skin for $5, what's to stop someone just copying that skin and re-uploading it in the mod center? So I think unit skins, probably not. Something like skins around custom things around your name or something like that, your banner or whatnot, could be possible. Once again, I don't, as long as it doesn't affect the gameplay.
No, I think
don't
it's.
really care,
I
yeah.
actually think it's awesome. The one thing that I think, I'm not sure if this is true though, but for CS:GO, I can see
Yeah.
that a lot of the appeal for skins is to brag about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And it's just, it would be the same thing in AoE too.
So if your opponent is not seeing him, I fail to see what's the whole point of having a skin, right? Because you want to brag about it. Look how cool my skin is.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's why I'm thinking it's very hard to implement in game. It would have to be like your player banner or something like that. And many people probably wouldn't buy that. I think they're looking for more creative ways to do it for Age of Empires 2. And maybe Age of Empires 4 would be more open to something like that than we would. I think Age of Empires 2, the route they should go, and I've been saying this for years, is like just make campaign levels and sell them for like $5. People will eat that up. And how much
I think
initial
so too.
investment? You pay a dev team like $20,000 to make a campaign level, and then you sell it for $5, and there's like 50,000 people that buy it, which is probably likely. That's like a low number for the amount that would buy a custom campaign with legitimate voice actor and good scripting and whatever. You make a bundle of money, right? And then you're not affecting the balance. You're not creating bugs. You're not doing anything like that. You're just telling historical stories. And I know I love to play the campaign. I would probably buy that.
Right.
And there's a lot of other people out there that would do the same.
And I think they're getting so much better at the campaigns, right? I
mean,
the
they're really
last
good.
Campaigns are
Oh
so
my
good.
God,
Jadwiga.
The Jadwiga campaign is my
campaign.
favorite.
Yeah, amazing
I
campaign.
think that or Attila the Hun are right up there in S tier.
Oh, that's one of the oldest ones, right?
Yeah. That one has so much nostalgic value though. Like I used to have this laptop, like this old laptop. And every time like the power would go out, I'd be like, "Ooh, it's time to play Attila the Hun," you know, like until my battery dies anyway.
Amazing. Maybe you can get Riley to narrate one of those campaigns with us.
Yeah, he was a good bloke or whatever. That's terrible Australian accent, but.
All right, Dave, I'm about to let you go. Both Nilly and Gamer Legion have hinted at a future LAN tournament that will be happening at the end of this year.
Have they?
They have. So
Okay.
this is official. I'm not revealing any special information. Now, my spies have already informed me about this tournament, so I'm pretty sure you're also in the know. This tournament will feature yet another massive prize pool. Then still this year, we will have MEM's new tournament, Warlords. And that means that at the end of 2022, we will probably be pretty close to matching the amount of tournament money we had in 2021. And maybe even surpass it, which at the beginning of this year seemed pretty out of reach. Is this the new normal for Age of Empires 2? Are we going to be able to keep fielding these amazing prize pools in the next few years?
I will say, when everyone was freaking out about Age of Empires 4, I was saying, hold steady. Don't worry about Age of Empires 2. We're not going anywhere. We can have both games at the same time. We literally can have our cake and eat it too here. And I'm glad that people are finally starting to realize that there's still potential for AoE 2. And it's only up from here.
Amazing, Dave. Thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure
you,
to
my
talk to you,
friend.
my friend.